For more than a century, one race has pushed machines further than anyone thought possible. Not for one lap, not for 1 hour, but for a full day and night of flat-out racing. This is the story of the 24 Hours of Le Mans, the ultimate test of speed, survival, and engineering. Every year in June, in the French city of Le Mans, the world's best manufacturers and drivers gather for motorsport's toughest challenge. 3 drivers share one car. Their mission is simple in theory, but brutal in reality. Stay fast, stay reliable, and survive 24 relentless hours. Because at Le Mans, the fastest car often doesn't win. The one that lasts does. The race takes place at the legendary Circuit de la Sarthe, a massive 13.626-kilometer circuit that combines permanent racetrack with public roads. A lap here is not just long, it's a journey. After blasting across the start-finish line, the cars immediately climb toward the famous Dunlop Bridge. From there, the S's begin to flow, guiding drivers into the legendary Tertre Rouge, the final corner before one of the most feared straights in racing history, the Mulsanne Straight. For more than 6 kilometers, cars run flat out into the distance. By the late 1980s, Group C monsters were reaching nearly 400 kilometers per hour here. Speed so extreme that organizers were forced to intervene. In 1990, 2 chicanes were added to break up the straight and keep the cars under control. At the end of Mulsanne, the circuit tightens dramatically through Indianapolis, before funneling drivers into Arnage, the slowest and one of the most technical corners at Le Mans. But the real challenge comes next. The Porsche Curves. Fast, flowing, and absolutely unforgiving, this section demands total commitment before the lap finally concludes through the Ford chicanes, where roughly 3.5 minutes of racing disappear in a blur. And after 1 lap, the drivers have to do it again, and again, for 24 hours. When the first Le Mans race was held in 1923, the goal wasn't outright speed. The cars were closer to road machines than pure race cars, and reliability was the true enemy. But year after year, manufacturers pushed harder. Engines grew stronger, aerodynamics improved, speeds climbed, and by the 1950s, Le Mans was becoming dangerously fast. Everything changed during the 1955 Le Mans disaster. Mercedes driver Pierre Levegh was battling near the front when his car launched into the air and crashed into the crowd. More than 80 spectators lost their lives. It remains the worst disaster in motorsport history. The aftermath forced racing to evolve. Safety barriers improved, circuits were redesigned, and Le Mans entered a new era. But the biggest battle was still to come. By the early 1960s, Ferrari ruled Le Mans. Year after year, the Italian manufacturer dominated the race, building a dynasty that looked impossible to break. Then came a moment that changed motorsport forever. Ford Motor Company tried to buy Ferrari, but Ferrari refused. Ford's response was simple. If they couldn't buy Ferrari, they would beat them. What followed was one of the most expensive revenge projects in racing history. Ford poured millions into a new weapon, the brutal Ford GT40, purpose-built to destroy Ferrari at Le Mans. After years of failure, the breakthrough finally came in 1966. Ford didn't just win, they humiliated Ferrari. 3 GT40S crossed the finish line together in a historic 1-2-3 formation finish. One of the most iconic moments in motorsport history. It was revenge, delivered at 300 kilometers per hour. But Le Mans was far from finished with speed. Through the 1970s and 1980s, prototypes became absolutely insane. The Porsche 917 started the madness, producing over 600 horsepower and pushing speeds past 380 kilometers per hour on the old Mulsanne. Then came Group C. These machines were pure endurance missiles, over 800 to 1,000 horsepower and qualifying trim top speeds approaching 400 kilometers per hour. extreme ground effect aerodynamics. The straight had become too dangerous. So in 1990, officials finally added the two famous Mulsanne chicanes to slow the cars down and bring speeds back under control. But even that wouldn't prevent what happened next. During the 1999 24 Hours of Le Mans, the Mercedes-Benz CLR prototypes were among the favorites, until the cars started taking off. First, Mark Webber's Mercedes flipped violently during qualifying after hitting a bump on the straight. The car became airborne at nearly 300 kilometers per hour. Mercedes rebuilt the car. Then it happened again in warm-up. Still, the team raced. And during the race itself, driver Peter Dumbreck hit the same section of track. At full speed, the CLR suddenly lifted, rotated backward, and launched into the sky, flipping high above the barriers before crashing into the forest. Miraculously, Dumbreck survived. Mercedes withdrew immediately. The incident exposed just how dangerous prototype aerodynamics had become, and forced yet another major rethink in endurance racing design. By the 2000s, the top class evolved into LMP1, arguably the most technologically advanced race cars ever built. These machines combined 900-plus total horsepower, hybrid energy recovery, extreme efficiency. Manufacturers like Audi, Porsche, and Toyota turned Le Mans into a technological arms race. But racing never stands still. Today, the top class at Le Mans is hypercar. These machines are slightly slower than peak LMP1 monsters, but still brutally fast. Around 670 to 700 horsepower top speeds over 330 kilometers per hour advanced hybrid systems. But the philosophy has shifted. Instead of unlimited spending, the modern era focuses on closer racing and more manufacturers fighting for victory. And honestly, it worked. Because after more than 100 years, Le Mans still delivers the same question it asked in 1923. Who can push the limit for 24 straight hours?